go on from there. My second encounter was while I was stationed in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. It was in 1972. I believe it was in the fall of 1972. I was working alone that night. By then I was promoted to a sergeant. I was working alone that night when I got a phone call from the switchboard operator. He said he had the state police on the phone and wanted to talk to me. And I'm thinking, you know, I had a parking ticket overdue or something, but he was real frantic when he got on the phone and said that there's 3 UFOs over the north tower of the Mackinac Bridge. The Mackinac Bridge connects the Upper Peninsula and the Lower Peninsula of Michigan. So I immediately, you know, turned on the radar, and but my immediate response was, "There's nothing on radar," and I hung up the phone. That's just something that's programmed into you. That's what you're supposed to say. There's nothing on radar, even if you see something. The north tower seemed to be a little bit bigger, and then I realized that they were the UFOs, and one took off, left the other 2, and circled Mackinac Island, and came back to the other 3. Then all 3 started going, following Interstate 75 north from St. Ignace. In the meantime, I got calls from the sheriff department. They were frantic, saying, you know, we're chasing these UFOs up the highway, and my response was, there's nothing on radar. Several people called, several civilians. I believe there was a newspaper person called. And in the meantime, I called NORAD and told them, and they looked it up, and they said, oh, it's coming up, they're going up I-75. I said, yes, at about 70, 80 miles an hour. Now, about halfway between St. Ignace and Sault Ste. Marie, there's Kinchlow Air Force Base, which is a SAC base, which they have B-52 bombers. They had 2, apparently, that were on final approach, and that crosses I-75. And so, apparently, they diverted those 2 bombers because they didn't want, you know, if they have nuclear weapons or not, but they didn't want to take a chance on them meeting UFOs about the same altitude crossing the highway. So they diverted the 2 B-52s. As the UFOs came closer, I realized if they keep going this way, following the highway, they go right by the radar site, which is up on top of like a hill, right at Sault Ste. Marie. Bright bluish glow, followed by the flashing red and blue lights of the police cars that were chasing it. So I realized, well, I'm not going to be able to see it, so I went back in, looked at the scope, they were gone. Went back outside, couldn't see anything, went back to scope, nothing. When they asked if I had it on radar, I told them no. It's more of a programmed response, thinking back to Klamath Falls, where you're told you don't talk about it, you don't write it down, you don't discuss it. I was afraid if I said, oh yes, I have them on radar, that the next thing I know, newspapers are going to be up there wanting to talk to me and stuff, and I'd probably get court-martialed, or I don't know what would happen. It was just instinct saying there's nothing on radar. When there actually was, I was watching them come up the highway. They were so close together, it looked like one return. In other words, it looked like it was one aircraft, but it was very low. The only thing I did was in the logbook, I wrote this down, wrote the information down, and I told my the senior NCO the next day about it. But that's all you're supposed to do. Don't tell anybody else, don't write it down, although I did write it down. But I doubt if you'll ever find that book, the logbook. When I seen this blue glow come by, it was probably 100 yards away where the highway is. It was bright, but not super bright. But it was totally silent. The only sound I could hear was the sirens from the police cars that were about 100 yards behind it, and I could see the strobing light of their flashers, of their beacons. They cover it up. They don't want anybody to talk about it. You know, and this is such remarkable technology. These people come from who knows where, that I would think you'd want everybody to know. on a personal note, after this happened in Oregon, and I came home on leave and told my dad about it. He was red, white, and blue through and through, World War II hero and all this, and very patriotic. And I was explaining to him about these UFOs that we've routinely seen out there. And he said, no, he says, the government says there are no UFOs. And I'm saying, Dad, I've seen these, on radar with my own eyes. And so he was torn. The government would never lie to him. Here's his son. I've never lied to him. So he just didn't know what to do. And it wasn't until years later, till after Watergate, that he said, hey, sit down and tell me about this. The government's lying to me, about a little thing like that. Obviously, they're out lying about something big. It's a government cover-up that doesn't need to be here anymore. There's no more Cold War. I believe the same thing Dr. Greer does, that the technology they have, we're burning our fossil fuels up faster than, the ozone and everything. These people have technologies. They have, it's hard. What do they have? They must have something. And the government knows about it. They have these, if they have these aliens, they have these spacecraft, they have this technology, all this. There's a lot of back-engineered technology that's pretty obvious. What else have they got? What and why? Who are they to cover this up? When other governments are coming forward and admitting and showing their files, why isn't our government? While I was in the Air Force, there was a number of people that had witnessed UFOs on radar also. A number of pilots I've talked to had chased them or come close to them or fly in formation with them. When they come down the land, a friend of mine was in a tower, and there was a flight of 3 coming in of interceptors. And he said, no, there's 4 of you. And the captain's going, no, there's 3 of us. And he said, well, look around. Sure enough, there was a UFO flying in formation with them. When Dr. Greer brought us down to Washington, D.C. for the briefing, I was very nervous. I didn't know what to expect. However, there was about 12 other people there that really amazed me. My story is very tame compared to what they've experienced, what they've encountered. And it was a real eye-opener, how deep the secrecy goes, how deep the cover-up is. Everyone from astronauts to, senators and stuff that know that there's something going on.